It is one of life's ironies that the clearest of thinking happens in times of crisis. This is usually so because when we are so down, it is also the time for hindsight and foresight, assessment and analysis, evaluation and prescription. The past few months, we witnessed a crisis in leadership at the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED. It apparently started with the resignation of then Chairman Patricia Licuanan, followed by the resignation of Director Marquis last week. There appears to be more to these developments than what is obvious. Much, much more. Madam Speaker, my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today, I will be speaking on a matter which will complement the earlier speech of Congressman Batocabe and the discourse on basic education of Congresswoman Ocampo. But I will be talking about higher education. My dear colleagues, I stand here before you today as a proud member of the most responsive Congress in recent history in enacting life-changing legislations. In the field of education, this Congress did that with two game-changing legislations, the Free College Education Law and the Free Wi-Fi in Public Places Law. Thanks to our beloved Speaker, Pantaleon Alvarez, who has just the right mix of will and vision, our Majority Leader, Rodolfo Fariñas, who makes things happen, the entire House leadership, our very proactive Chairman of Higher Education, Ann Hofer, of Communications and Information Technology, Victor Yap, and of Appropriations, Carlo Nograles, my fellow co-authors of said bills, and to all of you, my dear colleagues, for passing these legislations that will never be forgotten. In fact, they are revolutionary legislations. They are revolutionary because they will change the Philippine educational landscape. With free college education, the perennial problem of access to education will now shift to ensuring quality education. And as far as the state is concerned, that college education will be responsive to national developmental goals. They will change the way we teach, because with free internet, a lot of traditional school tasks will be rendered obsolete. Our books, our classrooms, and our teaching methods will become borderless. They will change the way we teach because with internet, distance will no longer be a hindrance to access to education. Even the physical submission of reports from provincial to national offices is rendered unnecessary as they can now be made online. These developments should rightfully define the administration of President Rodrigo Duterte as that which has revolutionized Philippine education, and the 17th Congress as the one which made that possible. This afternoon, I wish to discuss three educational concerns that require urgent attention if we are to consummate the revolution in education that we started. The first is CHED's lacking a graduate tracer study. What is a tracer study, ladies and gentlemen? Simply put, it refers to the data on the accomplishments of CHED, relating in particular to the employability of its graduates. It is an index of performance of any agency, which measures efficiency and accountability of the funds given to an agency vis-a-vis its goals. Such study would answer the questions that matter, such as, what happened to our college graduates, say 2 years after graduation or after a defined time frame? Were they employed? If yes, were they employed in jobs related to their college courses? During the last budget hearing, ladies and gentlemen, this representation called the attention of CHED on this matter. And in fairness to them, I was assured that they will attend to the matter. How soon it will be attended to, I am not sure. At this juncture of our national history, where we just instituted various legislative reforms in education, the significance of such tracer study is paramount. For one, with respect to the free college education law, the success of such law would be dependent on a proper diagnosis of how college education fared in the Philippines in the previous years, especially in providing employment to our citizens. We need evidence and hard facts to substantiate the policies that will be instituted by CHED. This representation most respectfully submits that the determination of courses that will be shouldered by the state under the free college education law should proceed from real data and correct analysis of the data emanating from such study, and not from guesswork. Otherwise, we will be witnessing the free college education law metamorphosing into an avenue for massive wastage of public funds and inefficient allocation of government resources. Such tracer study is also important, as it should affect policies that will be formulated with respect to the other significant legislation in recent history, the law providing for K-12. There is no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, of its good intentions, that it will make Philippine educational standards at par with the rest of the world in this era of globalization and ASEAN integration, and that it will result to K-12 graduates who are already capable of being absorbed by the labor market. 2 years after its full implementation, we as a nation still need to be fully apprised of where it is going. Then, there is the curious case of TESDA, the agency tasked by law with, among others, the development of technicians, middle level, and paraprofessionals in the country. While it appears to be effective in job generation, the word, ladies and gentlemen, is appears. It is most respectfully submitted that the programs of TESDA would be optimized if it will be done in coordination with the policies of both the Department of Education and the Commission on Higher Education. All the three agencies are tasked with a certain aspect of our educational system, and in view of the aforementioned developments, it is now more than ever that they need to talk to each other to synchronize our country's policies on education. That way, the three of them could altogether achieve gains which will be more than the summation of all the achievements of each of the three agencies taken altogether. The second problem that I wish CHED would focus its attention is the equally urgent need to computerize and create an online portals for its records and to update its management information system. I will give you a specific example, ladies and gentlemen. If you call CHED right now and ask whether a certain school is fake or not, there is a chance that you will not get a correct answer. This is so as the records of CHED in this regard are not updated and not comprehensive, especially with respect to schools which are just undergoing the accreditation process. Now, let us imagine that all such basic data relating to schools, students, graduates, faculty, and course offerings could be made available online. It will be a whole new world. Fake diplomas, fake schools, fake credentials. These would be things of the past. The same will happen if we can transport online the status of scholarship and teaching applications. That would mean a lot of savings and would also prevent corruption. Now, more than ever, CHED should urgently address this problem in view of the approval of the free Wi-Fi law. As the law is now about to be implemented, CHED should already roll out the necessary preparations that would make its services in sync with the internet. The last, ladies and gentlemen, last and third, is the inordinate delay in the release of scholarship funds. It is public knowledge that payment to the scholars of various grants takes at least 1 year, if you are lucky. If you are unlucky, more than that. In this regard, the latest victims are the more than 9,500 teacher scholars who are affected by the onset of our senior high school program. When asked about this, the former chairman told us that the scholarship division of CHED is lacking in personnel. To the mind of this representation, being a former recipient of government scholarship funds himself, that is an answer which betrayed her lack of heart for the scholars. In fact, that was very insensitive. Scholarship funds are given to those who need them, and that there is a time frame for responding for their needs. Such answer smacks of callousness to such time-bound necessity. Scholarship funds cannot be late, since if delay would be allowed, the scholars would go hungry and left at the mercy of forces beyond their control. The tragedy of Cristel Tejada, the UP student who committed suicide for not getting a scholarship, is an example of such vulnerability to uncontrollable forces. In view of this, ladies and gentlemen, it may be about time that this august body consider making it a criminal offense to delay without just cause the release of such scholarship funds, or at least impose penalties for such delay. In this regard, the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act may appropriately be amended to include such delays as one of the punishable offenses under the Act. While a crisis shows the worst, it also brings out the best in possibilities. This is exactly the message of the crisis in leadership at the CHED. It brought to the fore the pressing problems it confronts and needs to confront, as well as their urgency and need for resolution. My dear colleagues, these developments in the field of education also convey to us a message for a call to action to exercise our job of congressional oversight and to exercise our plenary duty to institute legislative reforms. Indeed, it is high time for a congressional investigation in aid of legislation to inquire whether a reorganization of the existing Department of Education, Commission on Higher Education, and the Technical Skills in Development Authority, TESDA, is in order, as to whether these agencies of the government could be merged into a single entity akin to their monolithic predecessor, the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports. Thus, immediately after this privileged speech, this representation is filing a resolution calling for an investigation in aid of legislation as to the propriety of merging the said three agencies into one, and or the amendment of the existing CHED Charter, RA 7722, so that said law could be made attuned to the need for synchronization of the country's educational policies. In view of the implementation of the K-12 program, free college education law, and ASEAN integration, among others. In this regard, special mention is Section 5 of RA 7722, which confers upon the commissioners of the CHED a fixed term when all their counterparts at the DepEd serve at the pleasure of the President. Indeed, one of the good things that a crisis brings is that it pushes all of us to critical thinking, which in turn leads to purposive doing, a sure indicator that change is coming. My dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, with the fervent hope that we shall continue to become agents of change, I wish to thank you once again this afternoon for lending me not only your ears, but also your hearts and brains. Thank you very much. Long live Philippine education. Long live the 17th Congress. Long live the Philippines. Thank you and more power.
Thank you, Representative Belaro Jr.